Entry into the industry requires the acquisition of at least one of the 5 types of licenses granted by the Cannabis Licensing Authority: retail, cultivation, transport, research and development, and processing. However, within these are further subsets with 11 categories in total.
Is that effectively what is happening is that we are building the plane while we're flying it. And I mean, we are not different from any other jurisdiction in the world. It's cannabis space, the legal medicinal cannabis space is a new space, right? So it is wrought with its own challenges. And what is important is consultation, is frequent interaction with like-minded states that already have a regime in place.
A significant part of the CLA's work besides consultation is to ensure compliance with international drug conventions. A tricky road to navigate given that the UN still regards cannabis as a Schedule I drug in its Controlled Substances Act. This means that the process to review license applications and grant licenses must be thorough, a process some have complained is slow and overly bureaucratic.
We have received and processed over 500 applications for licenses. We have granted 31 licenses and we have issued 24 to date.
With the establishment of a medical industry, persons who sell cannabis without a license are breaking the law and are subject to possible arrest, albeit sales in small amounts are not heavily clamped down on. It's important to remember that cannabis use is not fully legalized in Jamaica, but decriminalized.
We have to prevent activities such as inversion and diversion. And by saying diversion, what I mean is cannabis being produced in a legal or illicit regime being diverted, moving from that regime into the illicit space, right, and exacerbating the illicit trade of cannabis.
This, along with the increase in supply and demand of international quality cannabis on the market, is part of the reason why the pressure on farmers and dealers to enter the legal market is increasing, something many seem reluctant to do. The rigid process, thorough background checks of the CLA, and the cost of the licenses have been given as reasons for that reluctance. It is US $300 to apply for a personal license, $500 US for a company, and a Tier 1 cultivation license costs around US $2,000 to $500. There is the feeling among many that this process is discriminatory, prejudicing the original farmers who risked everything to keep the issue of cannabis, no pun intended, burning. I'm told, however, there is another side to the debate. Diane Edwards is president of Jamaica's economic development agency, JAMPRO. It is this body that gave birth to the CLA, helping to put in place its framework after advice from consultants.
We have to remember that this is an industry that is medicinal, and that means that you are producing products for human consumption. Therefore, you have to be very rigorous in terms of traceability, in terms of the purity and the scientific basis of what you're producing. So we are setting up an industry that is based on research and development and medicine and technology. So it is important that people understand that.
Mrs. Edwards said because of this, many small farmers feel they have no place in the industry, but she thinks otherwise.
But what we see as the opportunity for small farmers is to link themselves with larger growers on a mother farm basis. So you'll have one big farm or anchor farm if you want, and then several satellite farms around who can benefit from the technology that the mother farm can bring. But we see this as a real opportunity for the small farmers also to up their game, because if they want to be in the international market, they're going to have to produce according to international standards.
Commercial banks are still expressing reluctance in accepting the funds flowing in and out of the industry in order to protect their correspondence with their overseas banking arrangements.
In the at the US federal level, it is still a prohibited and considered a dangerous substance. So that means we are operating in a very challenging legal environment.
Despite these concerns, Mrs. Edwards sees the industry as Jamaica's big economic ticket. labeling the opportunity as exponential.
I think so, absolutely, because it can be our entry into big pharma, into the whole pharmaceutical market if we play our cards right, which means that we have got to get the intellectual property rights. We have to do the R&D, we have to make sure that we patent and that we trademark our inventions and that we maintain control of some of the plants and the strains of plants that we develop regionally and locally.
As things stand, the CLA doesn't collect taxes from cannabis sales, relying only on licensing fees and consolidated funds from the government. Like most aspects of Jamaica's industry, which has only really gotten up and running within the last year or two, there is little data available to see just how much revenue has been generated through these forms of collection. However, discussions have already begun to formulate a taxation regime. Joshua Seemungal, TV6 News.